Hello and welcome to another episode of Webinar Wednesday, brought to you by Virtual India Sourcing Show. Today we've got a guest who's going to be talking about influencer marketing and also micro influencers. How exciting is that, Marg and Kevin? What do you guys think?
Very good. Yeah,
something different that we haven't done as well. So I think a lot of people are looking for it.
Exactly. And I think one of the big trends for 2021 is going to be influencer marketing, with all of these influencers building communities on Instagram and all of the different social platforms. So yeah, pretty exciting. And he's got some really good information. Kevin, is that your phone? You want to mute your phone?
Yeah, I'm just trying to now. Sorry, guys.
No worries. Okay, but before we get our guest on, we want to talk to you a little bit about this workshop that we have just announced yesterday in the group. It's a PPC workshop that's going to be conducted by Ritu Java, and it is going to be just amazing. So we recently completed the listing optimization workshop with Verity Sewell. That was a huge success. And the PPC workshop is going to be on a similar format. So it's a 2-day workshop. It's very interactive, engaging. You'll be able to ask Ritu any questions that you have about PPC. And she's basically going to be giving you step-by-step all of the processes that she uses to optimize her PPC campaigns. And if you don't know Ritu, she is the CEO of PPC Ninja, and she is really a PPC ninja herself. I have attended a couple of her mastermind sessions, and she's absolutely amazing. She's actually managing PPC ad accounts of lots of different 7, 8-figure sellers. And she also has a PPC management software that she manages. So it's absolutely going to be really, really good. And this workshop is especially for beginners, because I don't know about you, Mark, but I find that a lot of people who are just starting out, maybe they have one product, or they really struggle with PPC, right? It's not something that's very easy to understand.
No, it is. It's very complicated. And I think when you first start out, it's just so daunting. And there's, so many different types of advertising you can do now. They're just making it harder. And people can very quickly spend hundreds of dollars without realizing, after the first month, they go, oh my God, I've been spending that all the time and I've got one product. So I think for people just starting out, it's probably a good basis just to learn the basics, and then they can decide where they want to head, from there on, whether they want to manage it themselves or move into a program or how they want to go.
Yeah, because PPC, you can sort of spend a lot by making mistakes, silly mistakes, whereas I think Ritu sort of outlines those sort of basics, going back to the basics and just seeing where you're going wrong to begin with, and sort of so you can once you get going, you're on the right road to begin with. I think that's the best way to explain Ritu's workshop.
Yeah, absolutely. And I really like the way that she teaches, because she has a very, she's a very patient teacher, first of all, and she has a really good way of explaining complex things very easily. So she's an amazing teacher. So definitely, guys, check out this workshop, theasianseller.com/PPC-workshop. It starts on 13th March. So if you're joining in from Asia and Australia, it's on 13th March. If you're in the US, then it's on 12th of March. Okay, so let's get started with our show. I'm going to invite Ivan Ken. Hello, Ivan. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. How about you?
We're doing great.
Great,
yeah, we're great. Hi, Ivan. How are you?
Hanging in there. I'm actually based in California, so I know we're trying to reopen here, but it's really interesting just being near the ocean. And it's because a lot of people are still able to do sports. They go to the ocean, they do jogging, but yeah, pretty excited about waking up in California and the sun's still shining even during the winter time.
Yeah, California's like our Queensland here in Australia, but it's a sort of all year round. Yeah. It is. I've been to California. I love California.
I've been wanting to go to Australia to catch some surf.
You'll love it, Ivan. Yeah, you'll love it.
Well, we're probably half an hour from Bells Beach.
I'm gonna have to stop by.
Cool. So, Ivan, you're doing so many different things with Crowdcreate, and you're we met previously at another webinar, and I was just so impressed by your knowledge and expertise. So do you want to maybe tell people about yourself, your background? What is it exactly that you do? And then we can go ahead and share your slides and can start the presentation. And in case people have any questions, they can type them in the comments and we'll address the questions as well.
Yep, that's perfect. So just to introduce myself, my name is Ivan Khan. I'm one of the co-founders here at Crowdcreate. We started this company about 7 years ago. And it all started, very interestingly, me flying to Hong Kong with my co-founder and finding a product, actually. So I was living the dream. At the time, I was in software for 5 years. I was developing software in Japan for it was using neural networks, artificial intelligence to learn behavior patterns in medical clinics. So I was doing that for about 5 years, and I felt like, hey, I'll take a vacation, find something, and maybe people might want it. So I flew to Hong Kong. I launched it actually through crowdfunding. So if you're familiar with Kickstarter, Indiegogo, that world,
Yep.
a lot of people that are going on e-commerce on Amazon are actually using crowdfunding to validate their product. But I was living proof of that. And we launched our first product, $700,000 in 30 days. And I just realized that, there's magic to having people talk about your product everywhere. It's I know today people know it as influencer marketing, but back in the day, it was kind of a guerrilla style. Hey, how do I get people talking? It was actually before the AirPods came out. We had the first wireless earbud. So we were going to athletes, we were going to audiophiles and just, hey, you guys, have you heard this before? And they're like, no, we hate wires. Well, it's funny because I had wire right there. But that was kind of the very beginning of it all. And we realized that, me and my co-founder realized that there's power in numbers. And when you put, let's say, 5,000 people behind a product that doesn't exist, they can help you jumpstart it. They can become your biggest fans and your community. And they can also become your best reviewers on Amazon. So that was the very epicenter. And since then, we started doing it for other people. And 7 years later, now people understand it as influencer marketing. So kind of been there from the very start and happy to share what I know with your community.
Awesome. So let's get started. Do you want to share your screen?
Yeah,
And
I'd love to.
go through the slides. Yeah. So guys, if you have any questions while Ivan is presenting, type them in the comments. I see Mohan has joined us from LinkedIn. Hello, Mohan. And if you have any comments or questions, type them in the comments and we will ask Ivan to address them. So Ivan, I don't see your screen yet. Okay, there it is.
Almost there. Okay, here we go.
Okay.
Okay, it's loading.
It's loading now.
All right, so this is so me and my co-founder here, and we've actually done this for $133 million in projects. So this could be sales to crowdfunding to Amazon sales. So that's kind of our specialty. I always start with this slide. People always wonder, hey, how does increasing your Amazon sales look like? And it can apply to, growth marketing a company. But everybody always thinks that there's a linear model. And what I always like to say is that it's really more like the model on the right. It's a lot of trial and error, testing. For example, in the world of influencers, you can't always assume that an influencer that, if you have a mommy product, something for young mothers, and mommy bloggers were to post it, you cannot always expect them to lead to sales. And I'll break down why and how to find them, how to vet them, and how to contact them. So the purpose of this is actually to help you navigate the waters of influencer marketing and helping you, increase your Amazon sales. So I wanted to paint the problem. A lot of people, like what was just discussed earlier, influencer marketing is becoming the number one trend for 2021. Everybody's looking at it. The problem is, there's 3 problems that people run into. Is that you're looking at lists that don't work. A lot of times, if you search on Google, give me influencer lists for reviewers, it just doesn't work. They get outdated so quickly. Number 2, not getting replies. So a lot of times people, I'm sure a lot of your community is saying this. I keep reaching out to influencers, but they're just not responding. Like, why my product is such an interesting product, but no one's responding, no one wants to work with me. And then number 3 is time. So many startups, I was in this same position 7 years ago. I would work by 9 to 6, and then I would work from 7 to 2 a.m. And time was just not on my side. So outreach is extremely time consuming. And, that's where, working with teams with influencer agencies come in. They can help offset that. So how do we do it? The goal of this webinar is actually to give you a blueprint and framework so you can actually do it yourself. So I'm here to give as much resources and knowledge and experience. And hopefully, you can walk away with some new tips on helping you market to influencers your next product. So why use influencers? I always ask this question. So yes, it is a big trend in 2021. But you also have to look at who are the market leaders on Amazon sales. So for example, Anchor, Xiaomi, their sub brands, Eufy, Reallink, Nebula, Roidme. These are all massive, massive Amazon sellers. And all of them are using influencers. So why do I make this comparison? Is because if the big brands are using this to scale their sales, it is 100% obtainable for smaller brands, and especially if you have something innovative and different. So a case study I want to share with you, because a lot of sellers sometimes come to me and they'll say, hey, I don't even know, I want to see with my own eyes how this works. So let me actually share with you one of the case studies we went through. So right here on my screen, you can see her name is Katie Hearn. Now, she's a beautiful young mother based in Louisville, Kentucky. So we reached out to her on behalf of Amazon, Anchor, who's one of Amazon's largest electronic seller. So you can see here at the bottom, there's the post with her showing the vacuum. They sell electronic vacuums. Everything was done through the Amazon affiliate program. And I can tell you between 2 and 3 days, she single-handedly sold around $90,000 in robot vacuums. So keep in mind that this robot vacuum is a $400 unit, but you can see the power of connecting with an influencer that's a perfect match for your product. And on average, some of these larger brands, on average, their return on investment is 10 to 1 through influencers. So when you're taking a look at even on the PPC side, influencers can actually yield better results depending on who you're looking and working with. Another case study, Calm by Wellness. This is a CBD brand, and they actually grew their entire e-commerce side through YouTube reviews. So when I say influencer, I also want to make the distinction that, hey, it's not just, people posting pictures. It's also those people that create reviews, dedicated reviews, talking about, in this case, it is a CBD product, talking about how it helps them with their anxiety. So that's also another area where influencers can help, is creating review videos. All right. So at this point, is there any questions so far? I'd love to entertain them if there are any questions.
So there are no questions from the audience, Ivan, but I have a question for you. You mentioned PPC and how influencers can help increase the ROI of PPC. Can you explain a little bit about how that works?
Yeah. So, just taking a look at traditional paid media. So paid media, depending on your conversions, of course, inside of the Amazon ecosystem, you have to use their ad ecosystem. But traditionally, and I'm just pulling this even larger than Amazon, just traditional return on ad spends, it's very hard to get a consistent 11 to 1 and 10 to 1. And that's actually so that means every $1 that you spend on an influencer, they are getting $10 back.
Mm-hmm.
Does that answer your question?
Okay. Yeah, makes sense. So yeah, it's clear now. Okay, let's keep going.
All right. So one of the questions I get asked is, what is the difference between an influencer and a micro influencer? So I've broken it down into 2 charts. You can see the column on the left for influencer, column on the right for micro influencer. So an influencer, a lot of people will think these are those AAA, large celebrities. Yes, they're great, but they also cost a lot. and some of the other points to make about them is that unless you are truly integrated into their story, it won't lead conversions. Okay, so a lot of these major celebrities, they will have the large following, but not necessarily converting to buyers unless it's a perfect fit for their community. As opposed to the micro influencers, which can be cheaper, and they create content not just because of their story, but because of the content type they create. So you can actually have exclusive content. For example, reviews. This is a great one for Amazon sellers. You can have micro influencers create content for you. An influencer will have longer lead time, while micro influencers will have shorter lead time. Major influencers will require brand exclusivity, while micro influencers, they can work with multiple brands and many brands even in the same sector. Influencers may require contracts, and micro influencers, they don't. A lot of times they're even doing it for free product. The key differentiation here that I would like to focus on is that a major influencer, you get the sales from the engagement, meaning if someone is actively engaging on their posts, are they liking it? Are they commenting on it? That's how you tell if an influencer is going to be returning what the returns are, as opposed to micro influencers you target on the SEO side and the views. So you're probably wondering, where do I find these influencers? How do I find them? So the number one platform that we recommend is one called GroupHigh. We are not affiliated with them. I'm actually mentioning them because they have one of the biggest databases, and they aggregate Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, all the above. And it's a very simple and easy way where you can filter by who you're looking for. So, places like GroupHigh, they can give you access to, and you can even filter by specific hashtags. So definitely try them out. If you want to see who's out there on the influencer side, GroupHigh is probably the best low price platform that I use. There are other ones that have come and gone. GroupHigh has actually been the most stable one that we've seen. Another place you can find them is actually, if you just search Google, there are a lot of companies now realizing that influencers is the number one channel for sales. So they're all creating content around influencers. For example, on the right, you can see HubSpot. HubSpot is actually a very big company that creates CRM software for outreach. They published this guide to the ultimate list of Instagram influencers in every industry. So what I'm trying to say is that the information is out there. These lists are out there, and the entire global community is seeing that this is the way to e-commerce. This is the way to sales. So I recommend platforms. And also, if you have the time, and this is where it becomes time consuming, you can also look on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. A lot of times, if these content creators are doing it for a living, they're going to make their contact information visible. So it's as easy as clicking on the profile, sending them a message. There's a tip that I always recommend. If you're messaging an influencer, be very forward from the very start. So if you want to work with them, include that in the very first message, business opportunity. You don't have to beat around the bush, because if they're looking to get paid and they're looking to work with you, they're just going to prioritize those items in the inbox. So that's a pro tip for you. All right. So how do you reach these influencers? And I'm going to get a little bit more specific, but in a nutshell, on the left, you can see what those outreach scripts look like. They're very programmatic. You can see I have 10 versions of outreach scripts. This is the biggest problem that we see across all brands, is that they think that they've created the best pitch script and they just send a single email. That's the problem, is that you never know what walk of life these influencers are coming from. You actually have to test it. We A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K test everything. You don't know what works until you know what works. So we come up with variations. That is the key. It's actually testing through numbers. On the right, you can see one of our clients, and you can see November 27th, November 28th, December 11th, December 12th, December 17th. Working with influencers does not happen overnight. You have to build the relationship with them. And many times, sometimes they don't even understand your product. That is where the most difficult part about working for influencers comes from. It's that constant communication and just testing. Be personalized and interested. The number one influencers want to be talked about is what they're working on. Everybody likes to hear that, what they're working on is the coolest thing. Or if you're traveling, how's your time in Spain? This is actually an example of Patrina, one of the influencers for Calm by Wellness. But we regularly send her videos. We regularly send her updates. Influencers, they're in the business of being followed, and they like to see that they're being followed. So be personalized, send them DMs. They could be the key to your next big, all-time highest selling day on Amazon. Speak their language. So many times I speak to companies and they're just sending out emails. If they're truly an influencer, they like to be talked to. And so you can see here, I'm actually getting interviewed by an influencer. On the left, you can see our associate. His name is Devin. But every time we reach out to a high-profile influencer, it's a video call. Don't be sending emails at this point. People really want to build that relationship with you. All right, another big tip on how to work with influencers, you have to make it easy for them. A lot of brands, they take the high route, they take the road where they think the influencer is working for us, you're going to have to work with me. The problem is there are so many brands trying to reach that same influencer. If you make it difficult for them, that'll lower the chance of them creating content for you. There are so many brands out there that send nonstop free content, and they make it so difficult for the influencer that the influencer decides not to post anything. So I'll give you an example. Provide assets. A lot of times, influencers are so busy, if you send them a photo, they'll post that photo for you. And so just make it as easy as possible. If anybody has heard of this brand called Majuri, they're a jewelry company. And you can see that they've created a guideline that they send to every single influencer that they work with. And what is the purpose of this? It's because now you can work at scale. Instead of just talking to a single influencer, you create a guideline and a system that you can send to 100 influencers. And now you're working at scale. Not only are you working at scale, but now you're also making sure that the influencers are posting the right content. So let me rewind this a little bit. So how does an influencer post content that yields and converts? If you're doing it on Amazon, you're using an Amazon affiliate link, and you want to make sure you may or may not be working on with the influencer to this level. But if you are, you want to make sure that they use the correct link. So by having this guideline, you can also make sure that they're using the correct link and not messing up, because that is the other problem, is that influencers may or may not be professionals, especially in the micro influencer world. Leave as little as you can to their creativity. You want to spell everything out for them. You can see here in the content guidelines, you can actually tell them what hashtags to use, what it can or cannot be featured with, to what kind of photos. So this is key, because as many of you guys are all creating brands, creating Amazon brands. I'm sure you are so busy running the business that it's going to be difficult to, reel in some of these influences and make sure that they're making the right content. So we always recommend make a guide, make it easy for them, make it easy for you. So this is another very overlooked concept, is that the pitch that you're sending to these influencers may or may not make sense to them. And this is a good framework that we always share. And just to break it down for you, it's actually, what do you do? What are the biggest differentiators? Put that right from the start, and even put it in the subject line. Why is it important to them? And include a brief introduction. No one likes being pitched and they have no idea who they're talking to. Social proof is incredibly important. Brands are building, for example, Midjourney. They have so much social proof in their guide that the influencer sees this and they're actually more convinced to want to work with you because they see and it looks like other influencers are working with them. So put your social accolades, your social proof here, link to learn more. This is always good to create video and content around your brand. Show them that you did research on them and create some personalization, and then always, always, always have a call to action. You cannot have an email that does not have a call to action. So these slides, they can be made available to you. If you ask, I'd love to send it to you. These are, good resources that we recommend to everyone who's trying to start a brand. Okay, so now that you've reached the influencer, how do you make sure that the content they're creating is going to have the highest yield? You don't want them just to create. This is a big problem right now for a lot of brands where they'll say, I sent out 10 products for free to influencers and it's not yielding any sales. I'm not seeing any conversions. I hear this time and time again. Influencers are not in the business of optimizing content. Just like you are, that you understand how important it is to optimize your Amazon listing, description, product thumbnail, you can't expect an influencer to be as savvy as you are. So this is what we always recommend. Give them in that guideline what they should put when they create that content. So you can see here, this is a great example. So Eufy, which is actually our client, Jury Rig Everything is a very, very big electronics influencer. He gets it right. So you can see at the very top, a product focused thumbnail. Number 2, again, this is on the YouTube platform. So if you're having your influencers create content on the YouTube, this is what you should follow. A product focused thumbnail, number 1. Number 2, an SEO optimized title. The same way that you create product descriptions on Amazon, you have to use that same mentality and thinking. I don't know if you're using Helium 10, but there's a lot of tools to help you. The flip side is that YouTube is looking at user search intent. So they're looking at Google algorithms. So you have to put yourself in the shoes of a customer. What is a customer searching for? So in his case, he knows that people are searching for security camera, wireless security cameras. So make sure that's inside your title because Google only indexes the title. And my third point is what's above the fold. So if you look at this description and you can see the show more. So I know many of your viewers may be international, but in the United States, YouTube is king of content right now. So if you're creating reviews, you want to go on YouTube. Or if you're creating reviews, you must put it on YouTube. So you can see there's a show more button here at the very bottom. Everything above the show more is called above the fold. And unless you click on the show more, it doesn't show it. And actually Google won't index it. So everything that's important SEO wise, including your Amazon links, needs to be above the fold. So if you do those 3 things when you're working with an influencer on YouTube, you'll have a much higher chance of that video becoming highly converting. There's a lot of technical details, but again, I wanted to say the purpose of me being here is to share my knowledge and resources with you. So definitely take notes. Another big tip when you're working with influencers is build a pipeline. Many of you may not be familiar with what a sales funnel is. I have a feeling that many of you are, but when you're working with an influencer, here's a good example of what a pipeline looks like. So you have interested. That's step 1. Are they interested? Step number 2, are you negotiating with them? Are they finding more about your brand, finding more about the product? Have they accepted to create content for you yet? Moving into step 3, shipping. That's when you ship it to them. So you give them an update. Hey, it's been shipped out. It should arrive in 7 days. Then they go into production. Production could be anywhere between 2 to 3 weeks, close one, and that's when they post the actual product video. So build a pipeline. And the reason why I'm saying this is because there are often times, depending on your product, that you're going to have 300 to 400 influencers in your pipeline. And you have to look at it like a business. These are leads. Unless you have a organized pipeline, you're going to lose track of where they are. I've seen so many companies where they will show me their inbox and they have 500 emails. They don't even know where to start to do a follow-up. Why? Because they don't have a pipeline. They don't have a systematic way of moving them along to become an influencer for your product. So I can tell you, this is a very overlooked step, because a lot of business owners don't have the experience of working in sales and understanding that it takes a step-by-step process to win over an influencer. All right, so I'm going to step a little bit back, and this is where you can utilize an influencer to create content for you. So a lot of people, a lot of brands, they're actually having the influencers become their spokesman. More and more, people are looking at brands on Amazon and they're going to try to find out who's the team behind them, who are the spokesmen behind it. So you can see here that brands live through videos today. We always recommend you to do that and actually distribute those brand videos. For example, in Amazon, if you have AAA content, I don't know if everyone has access to, let's say, Launchpad or even like the enhanced brand content. This is where you can integrate video into your listings. So that wraps up a lot of the resources that I wanted to provide. We help companies and we help brands outreach to these influencers, so we can help you. We have a 10% coupon exclusive to this group. It's India. If you go to our website, I'll provide the link later, but it's going to be valid until March 2021. So we can help you do the researching, the contacting, the negotiating, to booking, to actually creating the content on your behalf. But yeah, so that's a little bit about me, what we can do for you.
That is absolutely fantastic information, Ivan. That was really, really good. I mean, I really liked how you sort of went over all the steps, right from starting from, finding an influencer to contacting them and also the content. So that was a good overview of the entire process. And are you okay to share the slides with people later so that, they can have access to all of the content and the
Yes.
packages as well?
I'd love to send it. And there's also a bunch of questions.
Yeah, let's take the questions now. So I'm
some of them?
Oh, I have a question.
Kevin, you got priority.
Thank you, Ivan. No, I was just going to say, wow. I mean, there's a lot of stuff there, but I mean, as far as like a business, like influencer marketing, is there a lot of VAs that specialize in this type of thing?
There are
because
a lot of
I mean,
VAs.
us as business owners, it's another thing that we have to do, right? And so, like when you start talking about having heaps of a pipeline and other things, I'm thinking, oh my God, like it's more work. And a lot of people are thinking, oh, now I've got more work to do. It's bad enough just looking after Amazon. Now so yeah, that was my question.
there are a lot of VAs that specialize in this.
Yeah.
So if you look at influencer marketing specifically, I don't know what resources you're looking at for VAs, but you just search for the job description, influencer marketing. There are, I mean, I can tell you that they've been doing it for the past 5 to 6 years. It just hasn't been called influencer marketing. So the skill sets are already out there. It's nothing new.
Now, I'm sure a lot of people would like to, sort of outsource that sort of thing.
Well, that's
So-
what Ivan's company does.
Yeah,
You hire
well,
Ivan
that's
for
it. Exactly.
That's what my company
Ivan's
does.
doing it. Yeah. Yeah.
But I'm here to be a resource for everyone. I want to just
Yeah.
tell it exactly like how it is, because I know many of you are, like what Claire said, too small for this professional system. What I always suggest, and let me actually go through those questions, but before I
No,
do,
let me display the questions on the screen one by one so that we don't miss any. So did you want to say something else before we get to the questions?
yeah, I just wanted to say that influencer marketing is only called influencer marketing in the past few years, but in the past, it's looking for. I mean, if you think of the past and you think of, let's say, I don't know, Gap or Baby Gap, it's like you have the friend or the mom that's going to recommend it to you, right? You have your neighbor that's going to say, "Hey, this is a great pair of jeans. I love it," or your coworker. But now, with the advent of the digital age, and we have YouTube, we have social media, that's where that concept has translated to become what an influencer is. But essentially, it's almost like what happened in the word of mouth world, 6, 7, 8, 10 years ago. It's nothing new. It's digital now.
Right. Okay, so let's take questions now. So Deborah is asking, many influencers are starting to sell product themselves. Should we avoid these influencers?
I would say, to be very frank, a lot of influencers, they will start to sell their own product and they'll realize they can't do it. So I would not be afraid to work with them. In fact, I've seen this happen so many times where they end up working with the brand because they don't have the infrastructure and the access to the inventory or the sourcing that you have. A lot of times they'll come up with a great concept and they'll end up just merging their brand with your brand. So don't be afraid to work with them. If they already have their own brand and they're really committed to it, chances are they'll just say no and move on to the next one.
Right. So this is a comment. I think when you were talking about different types of influencers, smaller and bigger influencers and micro influencers. So the influencer story and brand would need to match the product. I have also looked into this. Okay, so Kelly's saying, interesting. However, I hope I never have to reach out to these people.
Actually,
Kelly.
I have a comment for you, Kelly. I don't know what your product is, but I can tell you that the younger generation has been very savvy. But I know, I mean, personally, my own mom and my own mother and father, they are buying products. They used to look at Amazon reviews, but now they look at YouTube on how to use the product. So I would even say this: try not to think of them as an influencer. Think of them as people just sharing how to use your product. And I can tell you that one of the slides I actually removed, but it's creating educational content with your influencers. So let's say, for example, you have, I don't know, a microphone that you're selling a microphone. What are people going to be looking for? They're going to be looking for how to set up your microphone. And you have an influencer telling them how to set up a microphone, and they'll talk about your product. So not necessarily, like a fancy, beautiful looking picture, but now you know that people are researching, and that's where you get into the mind of the consumer. You think of what is their search intent.
Right. So Mark, for products that we source from India, what do you think about maybe working with these influencers to tell the story of how the product is manufactured, or the story of the artisans, or the history of the craft, for example, or maybe a brand like Beach, for example, where they use a lot of eco-friendly products. We could talk about how those products are manufactured. And you're muted. Do you want to unmute first?
That's right, the dog was barking. Yeah, no, look, I think it's going to be fantastic because it's so much easier to get, like, that brand story. You can put it down in your EBC, but do people stop and read all that content? So I think to get India story, and I mean, unless you've sort of probably been involved with India, I never thought till we went to India about all that backstory and how it all happens and that. But once you've been there and seen it, so I think, it needs probably a lot of publicity, and this is a good way to actually get the India story out.
Yeah. That's what I think will differentiate, your products from maybe other products that are from other countries. You have the story. Okay, so another question. I think this is Roz. So how would you work out extra inventory if you need it if you use an influencer? Will that depend on the amount of their followers?
Yes. And I would actually go back to what is your objective. So let's say, the people in this community are from all walks of life. Some of you could be doing 9-figure businesses. Some can be starting up. So I would say just allocate whatever you have available. When it comes to the amount of followers they have, it's usually it's a sliding scale. If they have a lot of followers, they're going to charge you for it. If you have the budget, you're going to want to have the ones with the higher following. So it's basically how many people you want to reach, how much budget do you have. On the flip side, it's going to be how much you can convince them to work with you. So if you have a product that's very deeply rooted in sustainability and you find an influencer that's promoting sustainability, specifically with artisan projects from India, he or she is going to say, hey, I don't want to charge you a penny. I just want to help get the word out. So in those cases, those are the ideal scenarios. In terms of how much inventory, all you need is as little as one. I can tell you, we launched a UVC air purifier. Actually, the last time we talked, we were just talking about how we launched it. So we only had 5 units in America. We made the best use of it, and we raised almost $650,000 through crowdfunding for it. But we only had 5 units. We just had to be really clever with it. So it's like what I was saying. It's that match. Find that match with the influencers. That's going to be, I've been looking for this product my entire life. I just want it. I don't want your money. I just want it.
So then they pre-order? Was that the entire?
Correct. They just pre-ordered. Okay. So the product's actually on its way, but it's already been fully pre-ordered. So the entire cargo cargo has already been pre-sold.
Right. So in terms of inventory, like if you do want to get people to buy the product immediately and not pre-order, then I guess it would depend on the size of the community, right? And you could probably even talk to the influencer and ask them what sort of sales to expect, because they would know typically what kind of sales get in their community.
Actually, that's a good point. If you ask anyone, any influencer that does it for a living, they're going to know their own conversion rates, because chances are a lot of them, if they're, so here's a pro tip. If you go to YouTube and you search AMZN, I don't know if anybody's tried this, but if you go to YouTube and you search AMZN and your product type, those are the influencers that are talking about your product, and they're using the Amazon shortener link. So you already know they're inside the Amazon affiliate ecosystem. So especially when they're like that, they already know their own conversion rates.
Nice. Both Marg and I were like noting that down. As soon as you said it.
That's the link that Amazon affiliates must use. So if you know that they're already posting Amazon affiliate links for another product, you don't have to convince them anything. They're already invested in the Amazon ecosystem.
Yeah, fantastic. Claire is saying this is great info. Thank you. Kelly says thanks. Simone, great presentation. Thank you for this very valuable information.
Thank you, Simone.
Great information. Thanks to all of you. If you're too small, very professional system right now, is there a suggested strategies to start with micro influencers?
Yes. So I don't know where you are in your business, but if you already have customers, start there. So
let's say we're just starting on Amazon and we have, a couple of products listed on Amazon, and maybe they're good products, but we're still a small seller with a small budget. So how do we go from there?
So this is what we've done, and we've actually done this with our projects before, is that reach into your existing customer list. They may or may not be big influencers, but they can be micro influencers. And because they already purchased your product, chances are they wouldn't mind another one, right? So instead of having to look outside, this is actually a big business. I actually worked with a company that was building an integration into your customer database to automatically find who is an influencer. Because, if you have a small budget, start there, because they already bought into your product.
But what if we're selling on Amazon? We don't have access to the customer list, right?
You can use plugins like Sellers Lab that can let you reach out to them, and you can pull them off the platform and get their email that way.
Oh. Is that within TOS or is that gray hat?
Because Amazon doesn't ways and means.
Yeah. Amazon doesn't like people people reaching out to their customers, right?
So there's automation. There's automation tools that you can do to do the follow-up. And for example, Seller's Lab, every time someone buys a product, they'll automatically send them an email. You just have to be careful of what you're asking them to do, but you can reach
Right.
them.
Okay. But in terms of, working with micro influencers, so if we do want to start reaching out to micro influencers outside of the customer database, where do we start then if we're a small seller?
I'm assuming, let's say if it's artisan style crafts, you can actually go to Instagram. Instagram is, because it's just a photo, it's less of a requirement than creating an entire review video. Those are usually even smaller than the YouTube ones. So start there. I always recommend the same way you look at products and you vet products as you source them, look at what your competitors are working with. So that's always my number one recommendation. There's always another brand doing something similar. Look at who they're working with, look at who their influencers are, and start there.
Right. I think on Instagram, using hashtags to search for influencers or related content or related accounts, that probably works really well. Deborah saying, great presentation. I would love the slides, please. So what we'll do is we'll post a link to the slides in the description of this post later, so you can have access to them. Maybe later I'll need influencers. Yes.
Gee, your
parents are pretty tech.
It's very funny because it was almost out of a need that because all the kids left the house and I'm not there to help them, and they actually had to figure things out on their own. So I came back and after college, and oh wow, Dad, how'd you figure that out? Oh, found it on YouTube. Wow. Wow. But it's just I would just say I always keep this in the back of my mind. Like, how are people finding products? How are people finding the products that you're selling? You can't just think of they're just going to go into Amazon and they're going to find it. Yes, Amazon is, people are there to buy something, and usually they find it somewhere else. And that's YouTube, that's SEO. So think of that flow as you're working with influencers, because if you do it the right way, those influencers are just going to become, part of that introduction into your product.
Right. So here's an important question from Kelly. How do we know if influencers are credible? Do they have any relevant education? Or, it could also be other clients that they worked with, right?
Yeah, this is a hard one. So to be perfectly honest, influencers, well, I guess in general, today you don't necessarily have to be educated. You just have to, and what I call this is actually a transfer of trust. So I may not be a professor of mathematics, but if I talk to people about solving math problems for the past year, and I have 10,000 followers that listen to my math tips, you're going to trust me to a certain extent. So an influencer isn't really about education, but it's actually how much trust have they developed inside of the community. I've worked with influencers in the, I don't know how much people know about the camper van life, but it's very, very big in America, and I actually think Australia as well. Yeah. But a lot of these people, they actually have no formal education. They just went on YouTube, figured out how to build a van, but now they have like a huge following. And really, you're not buying it based on their education. You're actually working with them because of their fan, their community, and that trust. You're transferring trust.
Yeah, totally makes sense. So thank you. I appreciate the valuable knowledge. And cool tip. Okay, so there are no more questions from the audience as of now. So guys, if you have any questions, we'll start wrapping up now. But if you have any questions, please type them in the comments now. Margaret, Kevin, do you have any questions for Ivan?
Go on, Mark, you go first.
No, I haven't really got anything. I don't think we've covered. He's done a very good job of covering everything, I think. Like it's a whole, range of right through the whole thing from go to woe. So I think it's been really informative, and people, I'm sure, have picked up lots of good tips.
Yeah.
I've seen you writing a lot.
Yeah, I've got quite a few notes.
For me, I think, like obviously Instagram, any social media is good for business. I mean, even me, I'm sort of, not in the younger sort of years anymore, but I see, in marketing, I see the value of social media, and any social media or influential sort of marketers to any business, is, in my opinion, a bonus, and I'd say, for instance, I play golf, and I'm heavily into golf. I know, just as even in a golf club, someone says, "Hey, I bought so-and-so," and everyone goes sitting around the table, and people will review that product. But at the end of the day or next week, the guy comes and goes, "Oh, but I bought that because you said it was okay." And so imagine, I always imagine that on a bigger scale, and that's influencer marketing. And so if you can, that happens like that, then, you're on Amazon, I mean, and you're talking, big sort of numbers, it's something to think about.
Yeah, and actually, that's a good point. I want to piggyback off you said, Kevin. It's like exactly that round table where you're reviewing the product.
Yeah.
Just think of that same experience. It's just now on YouTube. It's now on Instagram. And instead of a table of 10, it's now a table of 10,000. So I know a lot of companies and a lot of brands, they say, hey, I don't want to focus on social media, but you have to realize that that's how people are learning about products today. It's not, you don't have to create, a beautiful Instagram with like, very expensive photos. It's actually just be present, people that show up will get it. And if they're there and they're searching for it, they'll find it, as opposed to they can't find it because you aren't there.
Right.
I think some people are just sort of, I don't know, maybe sort of scared to get into the IT of setting it all up, to get the ball rolling, so to speak.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's what you're there for, Ivan.
Yeah.
There's an interesting question here from Simone.
Yeah. So let's address Kelly's. So she's saying, I guess I need to set up an Instagram and Twitter account. So Kelly, maybe you can set up an Instagram account first, and for your brand, and maybe start engaging or start creating some content that's relevant to your brand gradually. And then once you've done that, then I think it's important to go find influencers or other Instagram accounts that can help promote your brand. So
actually,
Twitter, maybe not, right? I don't know.
Instagram, especially for products, is most important. But I would say this: just create your account, put up the very bare minimum, just the name, park your name, put an image, and the growth isn't going to come from you creating posts. The growth is going to be you collaborating with other influencers. So that's what I want to say. Like, a lot of people, they'll create the Instagram, they're wondering, hey, it's not growing. It's because that's not where the growth happens. It's through influencers or collaborations.
Right. So Simone is saying, I had no idea that we can literally give an influencer all the details, sort of done for you style. Yeah, that was really good. I mean, the content, guidelines that you had put together for influencers, I thought that was really efficient too. So you can just give those guidelines to multiple influencers, and you have consistency across all of the influencers for your brand.
Yeah, and also the other thing it does is it gives them accountability. So in the emails, you can actually say, and we've set this up for so many brands. If you agree to do the following, we will send you the product. So it's almost like, again, you don't want to push it beyond that because you don't want to seem difficult. But if you do get literally a confirmation, then most likely they'll do it.
Right. Do you need to sign a contract with these influencers, or is it mostly just via email? Is that enough?
At the point that you work with larger influencers, you're going to have contracts if you're going to do exclusivity. But I'd say 95%, no, you don't need that.
Okay. So sorry, products are on YouTube. Yes, I think certain products you said, especially where you need product reviews or you need to show how the product is used, those are mostly on YouTube. Is that right?
Yeah. And I would say, like, for example, another example I would say is like the bidet. So let's say a bidet, everybody knows what that is because of COVID. But at some point, everyone was learning how to install a bidet. And that's where it comes in. So it's not necessarily your product is on YouTube. Again, it goes back to the intent, the how are they finding about you. So let's say if it's a sustainable wallet, artisan made in India, sustainable wallet, then find those influencers that are talking about sustainable wallets. Or there's a big segment that you mentioned that talk about sustainable products. Find those influencers, and they're going to be your keys.
Wow. Yeah, I think that sounds pretty exciting. And that's something that we haven't really talked about in our conversations with sellers, Margaret, right? Because
No.
I think we generally think, influencers, tech products, doing reviews on YouTube and, you know. But, okay, so a couple of Kelly saying, I will try. Hi, Sunil. So, hi, who are you, Facebook user? We don't know who you are.
Yeah.
Awesome.
But
Do you wanna-
you mentioned COVID and sort of all the thing now in my Facebook feed. I've been, because I look at sort of golf stuff. We go back to that. I get all kinds of feed, on feed on my Facebook, and I find a lot of stuff is people offering sort of like golf lessons, or there's a free pitch, there's a pitch in the front, but like you say, underlying there's something to sell, not only the tip, but then the sale, then the actual sale of the product. But that comes a little bit later. But I have noticed that quite a lot in some of the Facebook advertising now, so very clever stuff that's floating around there.
If you can answer the questions, they're going to listen to your answer, and then they're going to be sold. And also, just to share, because I know rugs. I'm sure rugs is something that you guys source. That is one of those industries since COVID has been spiking. Rugs.
Oh.
Wow.
People are buying rugs because they're sitting at home and they're tired of the cold floors and they're buying rugs. But it's so funny. It's like, these influencers on the other side are talking about it. Hey, what are the best rugs to get for work from home? And that's that again, like you have to get into the psychology of what your customers are thinking. And if everybody's at home, my feet are getting cold, I'm going to have to buy a rug. I'm going to go on YouTube. What are the most softest rugs? And if you get that person that's creating a video on the softest rugs to talk about your product, you're golden.
Ooh.
That's fascinating.
Interesting.
Yeah.
We know lots of rugs. We know lots of people who sell rugs.
Yeah, lots of
I figured.
Rug is a huge category from India. So definitely.
Sure.
I recently used an online influencer platform and I had a lot of requests to participate. Okay, which platform did you use? So, Ivan, the one platform that you suggested was, what was the name of that?
Group High. Oh, I got a pro tip for everyone. So here's the thing. When an influencer is on a platform, they're going to ask for probably double their normal rates. Because now they're like, hey, and I get access to tons more people. I'm just going to charge a lot more. So on average, we actually, and I hope influencers don't get mad at me, but usually they'll 40 to 50% off what they're asking is they'll work with, because it's the same thing. You go to a used car dealer, they're not going to give you the best deal until you ask twice, right?
That's right.
They're going to give you the sticker price. So same with these influencer platforms. Just be careful, because they'll come off the bat, $10,000, and then you talk a little more. Oh, actually, I'll do it for a few $100s. But just a pro tip.
Good tip.
So that is a great tip, actually. You can negotiate with influencers.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I guess if they're smaller, they're more willing to negotiate and bring the price down, right? I guess as they become bigger and more influential.
Yes. And to just throw in a little spin here, is that since COVID happened, a lot of these professional influencers who have had these brand deals have lost their deals. So now a lot of influencers are actually looking for work because, hey, a lot of the companies that they were working with either, be bankrupt or are no longer entertaining influencers. So it's actually leaving a lot on the table for startup brands.
Interesting.
Actually, it was free. They were happy just receiving my product.
Yeah. So
Great, New York.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, so Simone, that works even better in Phuket. When they ask for 300, you always say, no, it's 100, because they always ask for a third more.
I listened to this webinar where I was told to ask for 50% off.
Yeah.
Oh, so
Awesome.
actually, that question about the free product, if usually the best ones are actually the ones that want it for free, because they just want the product,
Yeah.
and you don't have to convince them anything. It's genuine. Yeah.
It's genuine. Yeah.
Awesome, Ivan. So, do you have any final thoughts for us as we wrap up the webinar over here?
Yeah, I would say I challenge everybody that's listening, at least just take a look at what's out there. And if not, I always say just look up your competitor and see what they're doing. And chances are they're using influencer marketing.
Right.
So that's just my call to action, is just, take a look at what you're doing, take a look at who your competitors are doing, because if you're not getting in front of the race, you're falling behind in the race.
Right. That's a great tip. So, yeah, guys, check out their company, crowdcreate.us. And also, if you're really interested, then they also have an offer, as Ivan mentioned previously. So you can use the code India for a 10% discount, but it's only available until the end of March. So if you're really interested, you can definitely check it out. Ivan, do you want to give an email address, or if people want to contact you, how can they reach you? What's the best way?
Yeah, if anybody wants to reach me, you can reach me at Ivan, that's IVAN, at crowdcreate.us.
Okay. Let me just bring that out on the screen over here. So that's his email address, Ivan at crowdcreate.us, in case anyone wants to reach out. Alan is saying,
if you're wondering, that's actually a rug.
Facebook was Alan.
It's actually a rug behind me. So I didn't buy a rug for the floor. I actually bought a rug for the...
Was it recommended by an influencer? Okay, Deborah has one question. How can you find out what influencers your competition is using?
Yeah, so I don't know your exact product, but if you know your okay, so remember earlier I said just to create a social media account, just create the Instagram. You don't have to put a lot of content, but just create it. So when an influencer creates posts, they will be instructed to tag the company account. So in Instagram, you can actually look up who's tagging a brand. And so that way you can almost reverse look up who's creating content for them. That's through Instagram. On YouTube, it's usually you can go to the brand channel and they're going to repost all the ones that the influencers have made. And if you don't find anything, then chances are this is your chance to get ahead.
Nice. Really good tips.
Very
Logged
good
in with
tips.
my phone. Okay,
Hello,
awesome.
Alan.
So, Ivan, thank you so much for your time today. Yeah.
I was just going to say, mate, I think Alan uses influencers.
Yeah, I think he said he was giving them away for, he was giving products away for free. So,
okay.
Yeah.
If you guys,
Awesome.
I guess I can give one more big tip. This is really highly technical, but this is extremely technical. So take it for a grain of salt. But there are ways where you can buy ads, and you can buy it on, let's say, a Facebook ad, and you can actually use a chat bot that automatically responds to them and says, hey, do you want a free product? You can actually get that bot to recommend the product. It will actually tell the person to search rather than a direct link, because Amazon doesn't like when you do a deep link in. You actually have to search organically. That bot will automatically verify that they've made that purchase, and the bot will automatically issue a refund through PayPal. It's Amazing. So actually,
Mm.
you mentioned, is there a VA that can do it? There's actually robots that do it.
Who needs a VA when you got a robot?
But that's
Great
just,
tip.
it's a highly technical thing to set up.
Yeah.
And ironically, you can actually search for VAs to set that up. So
Yeah.
we can help you set it up, but I just want to be as transparent as possible. And like, I want to be a resource for everyone, but it's been around for a very, very long time, probably at least the past 2 years. So there are people that specialize in that.
Yeah. And all of this is within Amazon's TOS, right?
It is.
Okay. Yeah, because the last thing you want is your listing suspended.
It's I would say always be careful, and if you have any questions, you can always ask Amazon. Amazon is just very careful of what kind of promotions you can do and what kind of things you can send them. If ever in doubt, Amazon is extremely good on letting people know what they can or cannot do. They're very crystal clear. So if you're ever in doubt, just ask Amazon.
Right. So Alan is going to reach out to you later this week. And Alan, I think Ivan is going to be a great resource for you because I know your product and I think it's a good product for influencers. So, yeah.
For sure.
So
Alan,
Ivan, you've also joined. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, Alan, are you related to John Muir?
Alan's in Singapore with Megla.
No, because Muir he pioneered a lot of the trails here in America. John Muir, I think he was famous for finding Yosemite. I forget. Yeah.
Alan just found his way to Singapore and has never left. Easter's coming. The Easter bunny. Sadly not.
Sadly not.
Okay, so I'm going to finally wrap up now. So Ivan, you've joined our Facebook group as well. So thank you. Thanks a lot for joining the group. And if anybody has a question about influencer marketing, you can definitely tag Ivan in the group. And he's sort of our resource for influencer marketing. And definitely check out their services, their website, crowdcreate.us. Lots of good information. And you have some case studies there as well that you've done, for previous clients. So the only thing I found was golf course. That's what he found. And that's why he stayed there. Awesome.
Well, thank you for having me, and I had a great time. You guys are a very fun group, and I had a lot of fun.
Thank you for coming on, and thank you for sharing all that information with us, Ivan. It was fantastic. Fantastic presentation. Yeah, well done.
Well, very well presented and good information.
Very well presented. Yeah, excellent.
Oh, thank you so much.
Awesome. Okay, thanks a lot, guys, and we will see you tomorrow for Virtual India Sourcing Show at around the same time. We've got day 1 coming up tomorrow. We've got CJ Rosenbaum and a couple of other very cool suppliers. So join us tomorrow and day after tomorrow at the same time for Virtual India Sourcing Show. All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye.